Brightheart is no doubt one of the most popular characters in the Warrior Cats fandom, and that can be attributed almost entirely to her role in A Dangerous Path and The Darkest Hour. A cat getting hurt by dogs to the point of being injured for life and missing an eye, and her journey to overcome it. For this video, I'll be bringing on my good friend Poke to talk about the highlights and missed opportunities in Brightheart's story.
Hi, thank you for inviting me back. I've always had an appreciation for disabled characters, the ultimate underdogs. Or cats? Especially when the character is able to fight off everything that life throws at them. Brightheart is just like that. Not to mention that she's half blind, to which I can relate to. I was born almost blind on my right eye, and after years of treatment, it still barely works. She was one of the first ARC characters that I really fell in love with. And surprisingly, I keep on loving her more and more with the passing years. Might be the recent ableism issue discussion in the fandom, or just nostalgia. Not only did her injury make her half blind, but also ugly. She's described as so scarred that cats who meet her for the first time are terrified of her face. But she's still beautiful to Cloudtail, who loves her for who she is, not how she looks. Another beautiful message right there. Inner beauty. I love how she had to overcome her struggles and disability, not curing it with a superpower or becoming a medicine cat, and became a strong and respected warrior. She developed, along with her mate, new fighting techniques just to accommodate for her injury. She had to work double as hard to get half as good as others, and she did! My only complaint about that would be that the writers did not touch upon her not having depth perception anymore. Something I've been struggling most of my life myself, and only realized why I could never catch a ball in PE class years after finishing school. But her characterization is still miles ahead of any other disabled character in those books, aside from maybe Crooked Star and Deadfoot.
It was always amazing to see Brightheart overcome her challenges and be a warrior in spite of everything that happened to her. Though, myself being over 10 years separated from when I first read about her, I can't help but find myself feeling a little bit more cynical about the way the writers treated her. The character who was very intentionally written to be antagonistic to Brightheart was Bluestar. She denied her the warrior ceremony that led to Swiftpaw doing what he did, and of course, she gave her the awful name of Lostface. They kinda make Bluestar a punching bag for everything wrong in ThunderClan, until she magically loses all of her attitude the moment she decides to sacrifice herself in A Dangerous Path. And then suddenly ThunderClan is perfect? It just feels like lazy writing to portray only the crazy old cat as having the capacity to be ableist. They never give room to show Firestar's flaws. If you really think about it, Firestar himself never did much to uphold Brightheart's self-worth. He of course wasn't a fan of the name Lostface, he fixed that much, but it feels like the bare minimum. He was still a huge doubter. He didn't even think she could be a full warrior until Cloudtail begged him to, and took it upon himself to train her. And he's never really called out for being wrong here. The story never really opens any opportunity for that. And there's also a discussion to be had over Bluestar's mental health issues and the problem with how the writing portrays those. But we'll stay on the topic of Brightheart for this video. The story passes off Brightheart's development to the paws of Cloudtail, a character who would fade into the background going forward. Well, except for one plot thread in the New Prophecy.
In the New Prophecy, Brightheart is more of a background character. She's a mom of one, and said to have a close relationship with her kit and mate. And then Daisy appeared. I honestly never paid much attention to that side plot, because it just felt so out of place for me. The fact that a cat like Cloudtail would start ignoring his wife that he seemed so close to, just because some other cats seem to come from a similar background?
When Daisy enters ThunderClan, Cloudtail immediately relates to her as they were both judged by their two-leg adjacent backgrounds, and Cloudtail does all he can to make her feel welcome, training her in her moment of need, not too dissimilar to the way he trained Brightheart. And Brightheart doesn't respond to this well, often showing mixes of frustration and sadness when Daisy and Cloudtail are together.
I thought that Cloudtail was just oblivious. To him, the fact that he loves Brightheart and only sees her in his life is just too obvious to ever question. He can't put himself in her place and realize she still has insecurities and doubts. I mean, whoever could.
After this, there is a notable shift in her role. It's when she decides to start devoting a lot of her time to the medicine den. Almost as if she needed to keep herself busy to ease her frustration. Though her companion medicine cat is her sister Cinderpelt.
She goes to one place that gives her comfort, and one other cat who actually understands her struggles and cares for her. To the medicine den and her sister. I think she wasn't just putting her mind off of Cloudtail issue. She was also trying to spend time with the only other cat she seemed to have a loving connection to, Cinderpelt. But sadly the conflict mostly happens and is resolved off-screen, so we can only speculate.
She does great as a medicine cat helper, but we hardly see her open up about why she made the choice to take that path. Yes, we just explained it, but it was entirely our assumptions. All the reader can do is assume. We never see Cloudtail and Brightheart talking to each other about their tension. All we get is Daisy saying no, when Brightheart asks her a question too low and indistinct for Leafpool to hear it. Yeah, these were the days long before warrior cats used the word mate so freely. And then after, we get a scene with Cloudtail acting all dumbfounded when Leafpool suggests he go spend time with his mate. Squirrelflight reflects on how this suggestion was needed for him to open his eyes. So between Brightheart not trusting Cloudtail enough to know he wasn't cheating on her, having to go to Daisy before even being comfortable to talk with Cloudtail himself, and Cloudtail being a dense goofball who forgets why he should spend time with his own mate, their relationship suddenly is just a side plot made to fill space. This relationship is denied the complexity the first arc implied it had. They eventually did have another litter, but any apologies or character development we just have to assume happened eventually. We could hope that the upcoming Brightheart manga fixes that, but it's overwhelmingly more likely that the manga will just stand on its own and not involve Daisy at all. And that's when I realized that maybe it's not Cloudtail or Firestar or even Bluestar who is Brightheart's biggest detriment. It was the writing team.
In Power of Free, we were off to a good start. Brightheart was given an apprentice. Even though it was a pity pick, her being half-blind and given a completely blind cat to train. It must have seemed like the best idea ever in Firestar's head. Like this big brain moment of, yeah, she'll use her special skills and she'll show everyone who ever doubted both of them, and she's a perfect fit because she'll understand him. But he just ended up obviously hurting both of those cats' feelings. J-Pa was venting his anger out on Brightheart, and she was really trying, but then it turned out we needed a medicine cat POV and the only disabled character available was the baby gremlin.
It's clear enough that Brightheart is patient and understanding with J-Pa, especially considering how he treats her. But I can't help but be confused, because it's never clear what exactly the book is trying to say with this exchange. I don't think they're saying Firestar was right to lump the disabled cats together. J-Pa mocks that decision all too much without any repercussions for that. But they hardly make a stance against it either, as Brightheart fades quickly into the background afterwards, and all her efforts in mentorship become irrelevant.
But no worries. When the apprentices were switched, Firestar promised Brightheart that she'll get one from the next litter. Not sure why he couldn't just give Holy Paw to her, but okay. Oh, and how about this new apprentice? It never happened. He lied. Gave her hope and promise and never delivered. Was he promising that while hoping that one of those kids ends up poking their eye out with a stick while playing or something? Because it seems to be the only reason Brightheart was ever given a mentor role. To have a disabled character paired up with another disabled character. Was she not good enough for the fully abled kids? I guess so, as she wasn't good enough for Holy Paw for no particular reason. And that's it when it comes to her existence in this arc. She was there just to be treated awfully by her ableist clan. How lovely.
And it's not really that ThunderClan was intentionally written to be an ableist clan. I just think there is some form of bias in the writing team. They don't actively hate Brightheart. They just left her behind in favor of the characters they love more. It's like they assume what they did in Arc 1 was enough, and now they can just bring her out whenever it's convenient. Heck, they even bring her out in the newest book, and it's when she's sick. But they don't do anything with her, and there's even a moment where they forgot she only has one eye. For the upcoming manga, I think the most we can reasonably expect is a safe story with a few cute interactions between her and Cloudtail. Carrying love for Brightheart as the complex character she is will always be a job for the fans.
She is a beloved character who got a good and fulfilling life, but I wish they had gone a step further with her. I believe that she always should have become a deputy and later a leader in place of Bramblestar. She was full of compassion but still a fierce warrior respected in her clan and looked up to. Not to mention she basically touched every role in the clan. She's a loving mother and she has a lot of knowledge of herbs and medicine cat's routine. So she's able to empathize with every member of the clan, understand their needs and set priorities straight. She knows that impulsively rushing into battle might have terrible consequences. She learned that first paw. So she'd be one of the most level-headed leaders we ever got, able to fully understand the suffering of wounded and terrors of war, but also not turning away from the fight when it's necessary. She knows humility, but also warrior's pride. She's a perfectly balanced character. Not to mention that name, Brightstar. I think that Brightheart as a character was highly underutilized in the books after the first arc. Never getting that promised apprentice and just being sent off to the elders as a huge slap to the face. But I really love to think of what could have been.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, I'm glad she existed in the first place. And the fact that she is such a favorite shows the fandom is too. Hopefully, if they ever decide to kill her off, they do it with dignity. Thank you, Poke, for joining me for this video. It's always great having another perspective for character discussion.
No, thank you!
Alright, bye everyone!
Bye!